Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're here again today with Arwen, and today we are going to talk about breeding goats again. That's the series we're on right now, talking about breeding goats. And I got a question after I talked last week about whether you should have your own buck or whether you should rent one or things like that. And someone wanted to know, okay, I have my own buck. Should I keep him with the herd or should I pen him separately? That's a good question. And it very much depends on your situation because everyone is a little bit different. Everyone likes to do things a little bit differently, and there are pros and cons to each option, whether he runs with your does or whether you hand breed him by bringing the does to him when the time is right. So which should you pick? Well, if you're milking your does, if your does are currently in milk and you milk them, do not keep him with the does. Hi, sweetie. And we have duck visitors. But do not keep him with the does if you are milking your does and consuming the milk. Why? Well, does who are kept with bucks tend to have really strongly flavored milk. It's got this kind of off flavor. It's bucky tasting and it's not appealing. It's not good. Nobody wants bucky tasting milk. So if you don't want bucky tasting milk, and trust me, nobody does, but if you do not want bucky tasting milk, you do not want the buck with your does while you are milking them, especially when he's in rut. So don't keep him with them if you're milking them. If you're not, do you want to keep him with them or not? Pros and cons, right? So keeping him with them, having him run with the does, that is called pasture breeding. That means you just leave the boy with them and let them do their thing, and they get pregnant when they get pregnant, and you move on with your life. This is by far the easiest, okay? This is absolutely by far the easiest. So this gives the buck time to court the ladies, and that means that he has more opportunity to breed them, more likely to conceive. That's actually a big deal. I am not opening that. But they are more likely to conceive because they're with him all the time. The high conception rate is why pasture breeding is pretty much the norm when it comes to breeding meat goats for meat production. This is pretty normal because it almost guarantees you're going to have babies regularly because you don't have to guess. He's with them all the time. They do the guessing. They figure it out for you. You don't have to do that part. You just have to make sure everyone's fed and watered and that babies are properly looked after when the time comes. That's all you have to do. So that is an easy way to do it. However, if you do this, you won't know the conception dates. If you want to be there when baby is born, it's easier to know the conception dates. So if you don't know the conception date, you could be sitting there for a month or 6 weeks waiting for babies to come. If you do know the conception date, well, does tend to be pregnant for between 145 and 155 days for most breeds. And when they're pregnant for that long and due in that range, you can kind of camp out for 10 days and kind of catch the action. If you don't know, if you are guessing and it maybe occur in this month or next month and you're just not sure, it is very difficult to be there. Because you can't stay home for 2 months and just hope the babies come. You can't. It doesn't work that way. So it is best if you can figure out when the conception dates are if you want to be there when the babies are born. Also, if you have a mama with CAE or another similar disease where the disease is passed from the doe to the baby via the milk, you actually do need to be there. You need to snag that baby before it drinks mama's milk and gets infected. So absolutely 100% you need to know conception dates for that. So if you are trying to make sure the babies don't catch CAE or another related illness, you absolutely need to be there. You need to know the conception dates. So running your buck with your does is probably not the best idea. It's more complicated though. So you have to actually pay attention if you're not pasture breeding. You have to pay attention to your does. You have to know who's in heat and when they're in heat. You have to basically be on top of that. You are going to have to watch for the signs of heat. You're going to have to bring the does to the buck. You're going to have to wait until you see that the deed is done usually several times, and you're going to have to repeat this every day until she rejects him and you're kind of sure she's pregnant. It can be a lot of work. It is a lot more work. It's more complicated. You have to keep track of things. It's more work for you, but at least you know when conception was. And if you're milking your does, you don't have bucky tasting milk. So 100%, if you are either milking your does or you want to be there when babies are born, you do need to keep track. So you might want to what's called hand breed. So you're going to lead him to them. It's really a judgment call. Do you want to do that? Do you want to run your does with your buck? Or do you want to separate him and bring them to him when the time is right? There's no right or wrong. It's what works for you and your situation. So do it whatever way you have to do it. Okay? It doesn't really matter except to you. So figure out what's going to work best for you and then make absolutely sure that you do that. Because what works for me doesn't necessarily work for you. I am not going to run a buck with my does. I am going to separate him because I know someone's going to ask what my plan is. I'm going to separate him if I have my own buck, or if I don't have my own buck, then my ladies are going to go to sleepaway camp with him. So either way, I am not running my does and my bucks together. I just don't want to. It's not something I'm interested in doing. So once your lady is pregnant, she does settle down, okay? She calms down. She doesn't cycle anymore. She's not coming into heat. You can have the vet confirm with an ultrasound that she is indeed pregnant, or you can just wait. If she's stopped cycling and not coming into heat anymore, good chance she's pregnant. So you might want to keep an eye and do the math and know when babies are coming. About 145 days, about 5 months. Okay, in about 5 months, you'll have babies when she's pregnant. Anyway, that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Good luck breeding your goats. We'll see you tomorrow.